Happy Friday. Well, I'm at my listing in Warrenville. I am meeting the appraiser here, and I will admit I am pretty nervous right now. We received substantially more money on this unit than the last property like this, the same model, that closed in November of 2021. And I have to prove to the appraiser that the price that the buyers are paying is worth it, or at least somewhat close. We do have some protection with an appraisal shortfall clause that the buyer submitted, but if it goes lower than that, then we may have some issues. And I think there's a lot of pressure right now on listing agents because we have accelerating prices. We had 3 offers on this property and they were all about the same price, and they were all a lot higher than the last unit that closed in November. So it is a little nerve-wracking. I have all my data ready to go. I have the comps, I have the market trends, I have the past contracts that the other buyers submitted. I have a complete list of upgrades that my client did, and we're keeping our fingers crossed that we're not going to have an issue. But once this appraiser looks, I have a chance to talk to him. He gets in his car and he drives away. That's it. I have no further influence. I want to talk a little bit about what happens with an appraisal if it is short. And that is probably happening a lot right now because we just have prices that are so far above what the asking price is. So in the old days, we had an attorney that would put out an attorney letter, and the first item on that always was if the property appraises at or has to appraise at or above sales price. If it appraised below, the buyer always went to the seller to ask them to reduce the price. Nowadays, that's not going to happen because there's so much demand. But what happens is, I guess 3 scenarios could happen. If it under appraises, the buyer could go to the seller and say, I want you to reduce the price to meet the sale, meet the appraised value, or whatever I cover on the appraisal shortfall clause, I'll cover up to that. But if the appraisal is more than that, I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to pay up to that appraisal shortfall. So if it's say a $200,000 property and someone agreed to pay $215,000 and the appraiser said it's worth $200,000, and you've got a $10,000 shortfall clause, that would force the buyer to reduce the property by $5,000 down to $210,000. And then the buyer would cover that $10,000 overage. You can negotiate. Maybe both parties could split the difference. So the buyer will say, I'll come down or I'll come up $2,500. The seller said, I will come down $2,500 and we'll meet that gap. Or, the buyer could just take it and agree to come up with more money even over and above that shortfall clause if they choose, or both parties could agree to do nothing and the deal would fall through and the property would have to go back on the market. So I think it's always good if you can work something out because you don't know what you're going to get when you go back on the market. It's really hard to say. You might get an offer that's less than the first ones that you received. It's ultimately up to the seller on what he wants to do, and we'll go with that. So if you have any questions on real estate, it's kind of a stressful time right now, especially for listing agents. Everybody thinks we have it easy, but there is a lot of pressure on us regarding these appraisers. They hold a lot of power in the transaction, and if they say something's worth a lot less, a deal could go south and you got to go back on the market. So I think appraisers are always stressful even in a normal market, because if you can't justify the value to somebody, you're going to have a problem. If you have any questions on real estate, feel free to call me. My name is Jill Lasek. I am with Baird & Warner here in Naperville, and my number is 630-816-8701. Take care and stay dry because we're supposed to get a lot of rain later. At least it's not snow. Bye.